On today's Photo Moment, the GH5 Firmware Update version 2 is announced, and we're going to go through that press release line by line. Good morning and welcome to PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment, the first live daily photo show every weekday morning, 9:30 a.m. Pacific, right here on YouTube. Every weekday, this is fun. We have some fun. We talk photo, we talk video, and today we're talking about the brand new, just announced firmware version 2.0 update for the fabulous little GH5. Love this camera. Love this camera, and this update is going to be a good one. So, for anybody who's new to this, because I know this video is going to get seen pretty far and wide, I am your host, PhotoJoseph. I am a LUMIX luminary, which means I am a sponsored photographer by Panasonic. So, when it comes to my opinions of the LUMIX cameras, I'm just a wee bit biased. No hiding that anywhere here. We say that down below. I say it right here. And today we're going to be talking about all the cool new features, what I'm excited about. We're going to kind of try and analyze and break down the press release because I've gotten just a little bit more information, but not much more than what was in the press release. I probably will have questions, you probably will have questions that I don't necessarily have answers to, but I will do my best to analyze what we've got and try and figure out exactly what is in this release that is coming at the end of this month. So that is what there is to that. Now, this show is very fabulously partially sponsored by our friends at FidoNet.com. FidoNet, whether you need a domain, I got a whole thing I had to read here. We need a domain name, web hosting, or your own virtual server, FidoNet.com are the people to talk to. And to save 10%, be sure to use the code PhotoJoseph on checkout. We'll talk about them more in a little bit. So, GH5 version 2 update. This is a big deal. People have been waiting for this for a long time. In a totally unprecedented move, when Panasonic announced the GH5, they not only said, hey, here's the camera that's coming, they even said, hey, 9 months or so after the release of the camera, we're going to release a firmware update that's going to add a bunch of new features. They talked about tethering, they talked about 400 megabit recording, and I think they talked about high-res anamorphic. Did they talk about that? Yeah, they talked about that back then. And in the meantime, there's been a few other things that have been added, like autofocus improvement, some bug fixes, some new features that are in by customer request, and just a whole big pile of stuff. So, with that said, I think all we got to do is just start jumping through it line by line. Before I do, let me take a quick look at the comments here. So is there anything flying up here that we want to address? Just FYI, we will show the comments here occasionally. If you are watching live and you want to ask a question live, do type in @PhotoJoseph. You can see on the screen right now how it puts it like in little red highlights in there. That's great. That catches my attention, and then I know that you've got something that you want me to respond to. Please do format your question in the form of a question so I can just read it on the air and be ready to go. Try and get the spelling right. It's really kind of, when spelling is, it's like, what did he say? Oh, okay, I got it now. So just try and get that for me, and I will try to address as many of your questions as I can. Do try to keep the questions on topic. Today we're not going to do a secondary show. This is going to be a huge one as it is. So if you have questions that are totally off topic, just save them for another day, please. Let's try and keep this one to the GH5 update. And one last thing for you, of course, if you are new to the show and you like what you see here, obviously, please do subscribe, please do thumbs up this video, and take the opportunity to head over to patreon.com/PhotoJoseph, which is going to pop up down here. There it is, right there, and consider supporting this show. With that said, let's get started. First up on the list, there's 12 points. The first point is the LUMIX Tether PC software. So let me just read what the press release says. This new firmware update enables GH5 tethered shooting via USB using LUMIX Tether PC software. And it says PC software, but that means PC and Mac. It's Windows and Mac. PC, personal computer. It's Mac as well, don't worry. Users can control the camera by connecting it to a PC via USB. It lets you view the images on a large PC screen while shooting, which is helpful in commercial photo shoots or portraits, products, and so on, where continuous confirmation is required. You can use 6K photo and 4K photo and start and stop video recording with the tethered shooting. It is also possible to choose the folder to save the image files in the PC. Okay, let's break some of this down here, what this actually means. First of all, when the feature was first announced, there was some speculation, some driven internally, some just the blogosphere discussing what is it going to tether to, because unfortunately there are multiple tethering standards. The protocols that Lightroom uses versus Capture One uses are different, and so if a camera manufacturer creates compatibility for one piece of software, it's not necessarily for the other. And this can be a bit of a support problem, if you will. So what Panasonic has opted to do is create their own complete software, their own app that will be a free app that will be just like your Panasonic app that you can download for free for your iOS or Android device. This will be a free Mac and Windows app that you can install on your computer and then USB tether and control the camera. As I understand it, you're going to basically have a complete reproduction of the operating interface in software. So you can change your exposure, all your camera settings, focus, everything that you would be able to normally do here by pushing buttons, you'll be able to do on the computer. And then, of course, capture. Now, when you capture, those files will be transferred over your USB-C speeds, nice and fast, over to your computer into a folder that you designate. And that's important because pretty much every app, I think every app that I know of, offers a feature where it will watch a folder. So anything that pops into that folder will automatically get imported. So while it's not tethering directly into Lightroom or directly into Capture One, it's tethering directly to its own folder, which will then get picked up by whatever software you like. So there's that extra step in there, which I have absolutely no idea if there's any extra time delay, how fast it's going to be. Have not played with it yet. From those who have played with it, I've heard that it is very good, but that's all I can say on that. I don't have any real experience with it. But getting those images into the computer and then over to your software of choice is awesome. And I think this is a great solution for it because it does mean it doesn't matter what you're using on the other end. The manufacturer, the software company don't have to write support for each other. It just works. So super bonus there. So David's asking, will USB tether work in Lightroom? So I've just answered that. It will work via the fact that it will get picked up by Lightroom's watch folder. PSMMXXXII, you've got a question about HDR recording. Hold on to that when HDR comes up. And Mac Lover is saying, do I need to upgrade from version 1.1, the firmware update, or can I just upgrade from the original firmware? Yeah, it doesn't matter what version you're on, you'll be able to upgrade. You won't have to do an incremental upgrade. You can just, if you've got 1.0, if you never updated to the 1.1 firmware, you'll be able to update straight to 2.0 when that comes out, so don't worry about that. Okay, so that is tethering. I'm gonna go kind of fast because there's a ton of stuff in here to go through. This is a biggie, of course, improved autofocus performance. There's a lot of bullet points in here, so we'll go through them one by one. Some are a bit more self-explanatory than others, but the first one, autofocus performance for subjects with low contrast in photo shooting is improved. Okay, well, so if you got a, let me move over here, if you got a low contrast situation, you're gonna get better autofocus performance. Okay, cool, sounds good to me. Tracking autofocus performance in video recording is improved. So this is not super clear yet what this means, but there's the tracking feature where you have the, I always kind of refer to it or make the analogy to like a missile tracking thing. It locks onto the missile, and the missile locks onto the target and follows it along. Same idea. You have this thing, little square that bounces around the scene. You say lock on this, and hopefully it follows and tracks that subject as it moves around. That is, to my understanding, what this is referring to. It's that tracking mode, and it is improved. How it's improved, we don't know. Does it lock faster? Is it less likely to lose? Is it better? I don't know. But it's better, and better is better. So we'll just take it for that. Better is better. Next up, the customized autofocus area can be continuously displayed in the multi-AF and custom multi-AF during live view. That's really cool. So what that means is, you can go in on your LCD and you can design an area where you want it to focus. I only want it to focus on the left side of the screen, or this line, or this diagonal stripe, or whatever. But once it was set, you didn't necessarily know where that was. You kind of had to go, well, okay, my subject is somewhere on the right. I think I positioned it there. Hopefully it lines up. But now you can have those custom AF squares illuminated on screen all the time, so you know where you've told the camera to focus. So when you're composing your scene, you make sure that your subject lines up with the boxes that you have defined as where you want it to focus. So I think that's really nice. It's a simple little UI thing that will, I think, help tremendously there. Next, the autofocus area in the multi-AF can be moved to the other edge, side, top, or bottom when it reaches one edge. So what that means is, you know how if you're navigating using the joystick here and you're pushing the autofocus point to left or right, top, bottom, whatever, as you get to the left, the way it is now in version 1 of the firmware, if you're over here and you want to get over here, you have to all the way back. But now it's like a wraparound. So when you go here and you go one more left, it's going to pop up on the right side of the screen. So it's like Pac-Man. It can go up the top, bottom, left and right, all over the place. So I'm going to call that the Pac-Man mode because I think that's kind of cool. All right, next up, the start point of AF lock can be set on the live view screen in advance. Okay, this one's a little bit more confusing, and I think what this means is in the tracking when you would, normally you find your subject and you recompose the camera and then tap on them to lock on them, that you can do that in advance, I guess, to say the subject is going to be here, grab something there to lock onto. But I don't really know. I wish I had a better answer for that. This is something I'm just going to have to play with it to understand, and I do not yet have a version 2 version of the update. So that's what I think it's going to do. I could be wrong, but that's what I think it's going to do. Next up, the AF area can be moved while the shutter button is half pressed or while recording in the burst mode 6K photo and 4K photo. So it's funny because that's not something that I really realized was missing before. Oh good, I got a dead battery. Ryan, could you grab me a battery, please? Because I tend to move things around a lot. So I'm not really exactly sure how that means. So if someone's out there going, oh, thank God, then that's great. To me, this hasn't been an issue, refocusing, repositioning the focus point while recording. So not totally sure what that's adding to us, but it's there, so I had to share it with you. All right, let's see what's going on in the comments here. Thank you very much. Oh, nope, wrong ones. These. Those ones. Let's see what else is on here. And, excuse me, all right. PSMMXX2 says, tethering, what recording capabilities are there? Just monitor or record in? Record in. Yeah, the whole tethering thing will allow you to record your photos, shooting your photos directly to the computer. Recording, it said, what did it say? It said something about recording video. Start and stop video recording. Oh, if you're asking, will you be able to record the video to the hard drive? If that's what you're asking, that is not actually made clear here, which is a good question. Let me see if I can find that here. I have another document I can't share, unfortunately, but it's got just a little, it's not much more information, so you're not really missing out on anything. But let me see if I can tell. I was hoping to get the okay to share some screenshots, but I don't have that yet, so obviously I'm not going to. But I'm trying to see if there's anything about recording video internally. I'm not seeing that, so I'm not really sure. Thank you. Hopefully one of these will be charged. I don't know if you can record video. I kind of doubt it. I kind of doubt it because, you know, recording video internally is one thing. You're writing to them. It would have to transfer that file. I guess it depends how fast USB-C is. Sorry, I'm rambling here because I'm not really sure. It's a good question, and that would be really cool if you could. If this battery worked, but I don't know. We'll have to find out. Super good question, though. Super good question. David says, I've already tried the new video autofocus. I have not. I don't have my hands on this yet, so I have not tried anything yet. And better is better. Great quote. Well, I agree, Trevor. Okay, and that's that. All right, let's move on. And again, if you're writing something you want me to respond to, but you're not putting PhotoJoseph in front of it, I'm not going to see it. So do make sure that you do that. Let's move on to number 3. So again, when it comes to autofocus, it's better. That's it. That's what we've got. It's better. Well, we will see what that means. Okay, next up. Improved performance in 6K and 4K photo mode. This is a biggie. The waiting time to start the next burst shooting sequence after 6K burst or 4K burst is shortened to less than half the time. That's significant because that was one of those things where if you shot a long burst, it took a while to write that to the card and you're waiting before you could shoot again. So whatever they've done, I don't know what it is obviously, but they've done something to cut that down to half the wait time, which is really fantastic. That I'm quite pleased to see. So for those who are shooting with it, but maybe we're thinking, well, I can't really shoot with it as much as I'd like to because the wait time is too long between shots, that has been corrected. I was going to find out what this was and I forgot to ask. Loop record is available in 6K photo. I don't actually know what loop record is, and I don't have any other info on that. What I would imagine is it's some type of define 30 seconds and it just constantly records and just saves the last 30 seconds. But I don't know. I recall something about, let me see if I can find anything in this other PDF that I have. Does this have a search? Oh, it doesn't have a search. Oh, well, guess not. I recall something about for law enforcement needed something like this, and this is a feature designed for law enforcement. That's kind of in the back of my head somewhere. So it might be like 30 seconds is probably a bad example, but like a 4-hour recording loop if you wanted to use it like a security camera type of a thing. That might be what it is, but again, sorry, I do not know. All right, so that's it. 3 was a pretty short one. On the comments here, Paper Hustles TV is asking, do you know if tethering can be used to do live shows with the GH5? I very seriously doubt it. That was, from the beginning, that was something that was asked about, and we were told no, that we could not get the real-time video output over the over the USB port. But that's a good point, because now we're kind of getting it, because we do have the live view monitor. So what it probably is a lower resolution. It's not full 4K or even full HD perhaps resolution that we're getting through. I don't know, but it's not what it's designed for. If they had designed it to do that, that would be a big bullet point, because that would be a pretty big deal. But no, as it's set up, at least it is not designed to allow the GH5 to be used as a webcam simply via the USB-C port. You still need to have some type of HDMI to USB or HDMI to Thunderbolt adapter in there. So sorry about that. And again, I'm guessing that it's going to be a resolution issue. They're probably bringing the resolution down. It shouldn't be a latency issue, because when you're shooting stills, whatever, you want to see it basically in real time. So it's probably a resolution issue, probably. But it's not listed here, so I don't have a clear answer for you. Trevor says Panasonic did say that tethering can be used with 6K, 4K photo, right? Correct. So maybe a workaround for live stuff. Again, what you're actually seeing on the screen is probably not full resolution. That's going to be my guess on there. Okay, that's that. Let's move on to number 4. This is one of the biggies. Number 4, an additional all-intra video recording mode. So this is one that we knew was coming. 422 10-bit all-intra video recording mode is added to 4K Full HD video recording. Okay, so what does this actually mean? Well, just all-intra, because I know that's one of those like, ooh, techie, what is all-intra? All-intra is a higher quality recording format, which is what's native for most of the recording formats in the GH5 already. Every single frame is a full data frame. It's easier to explain what it is by explaining what it isn't. There are formats like long-op, or you also hear something called IBP recording. The I is an intra frame, and then you have a frame that is a full data frame. And then the next few frames are not full data. Somewhere down the line, it might be half a second later, you have another full data frame. And every frame in between is a delta. It only records the difference between the frame before and the frame after it. So you have a lot less data. It takes up a lot less space, but what it means is your quality drops, because it's not a full data frame, it's just a delta frame, a difference frame. What's difference? And then the math has to be done to say, well, if this is different, that's different than which added, and what that adds up to is this pixel, and it renders that pixel. But it's lower quality. It does take up less space on your hard drive, but it also means that editing is more slow. You can't, when you're in one of those long-op type modes, you cannot edit frame accurate, because you can only park on an intra frame, an I frame. Or you have to convert it to a format like ProRes, which would be an all-intra frame. Every frame is a real frame, so that you can edit it. So before you can edit, you have to transcode it, which sucks. So having an all-intra video format gives you higher quality, takes up more space on your drive, clearly, but it's higher quality and it's immediately editable, frame accurate. So that's what the all-intra means. It's important that it's just called out here. It's already been in the camera. All-intra isn't new, but of course the 400 megabit is. They've got a little qualifier in here that says use of the SD memory card with video speeds class 60 or higher is recommended, and its operation is confirmed with a class speed of V90. So basically that's saying, look, it's definitely going to work with V90, but you got to be on 60 or higher. So that's that. Now let's take a look at the chart that they've provided here. We're not going to go through this square by square, but if you look at the top, you can see some of the more exciting stuff in here. So you got a C4K, that's Cinema 4K, and then under that 4K and 4K. Actually, will my mouse work? Oh, I guess I can't do that with a mouse. That's NTSC modes. You can see the resolutions under the size chart, frame rate, bit rate, and you see that this is 422 10-bit. So we're getting full-on 422 10-bit 400 megabit in 4K and even Cinema 4K. This is insane, right? This is a really high quality recording captured internally here. You know, for a lot of uses, it's going to say, well, I don't even need to shoot to ProRes anymore. This is good enough. It's pretty phenomenal. And now, obviously, remains to be seen once we can do some side-by-sides and compare to something at 200 megabit and then at 400 megabit and then at ProRes, which I think is around 800 megabit, I think. I don't remember. It's pretty high, though. And it'd be interesting to do side-by-sides there and see where it breaks down still and where it's good enough, or you can't tell the difference between the full ProRes. But this is really exciting. For a lot of people, this is a really, really big deal to give you that extra quality. Most people are not going to need this or want this. It's going to take too much space on your cards. It's going to give you extra quality that you don't need. But for those who need it, it's awesome, fantastic that it is there. So again, just pull up that chart real quick for those who want to take a screenshot of that. And of course, you'll find this chart all over the internet as well today. This is not nothing new here. All right, let's move on to the next one. Number 5, 4K HDR video recording. This is a cool one, something called hybrid log gamma. So I'll just read this through here. Hybrid log gamma is added to PhotoStyle. HDR, high dynamic range, is a mode to reproduce both the brightest and darkest parts in an image, making it look just as the human eyes see. The camera records video with a designated gamma curve compatible with ITUR B2100, and you can now choose hybrid log gamma in the photo style. So what this means is that you are shooting native HDR. Now, okay, well, how am I going to view native HDR? You have to have a display that displays native HDR. Now, the Atomos Ninja Inferno does this, which is crazy cool. So I'm excited to have this and plug it into there and see the native HDR showing up on that. But some TVs, some consumer TVs, Samsung's got a TV that's got it. This is the standard for HDR, right? This is an industry standard for HDR. And the way that this works is, let's just say that you shoot something in HDR mode on your camera, and then you play it on your computer. Okay, you're playing it on a standard 8-bit screen. You're not going to see it in HDR. It's going to display normally as it should. But as soon as you play it on an HDR display, it automatically, because of the encoding that's in there, the HDR display goes, ooh, that's HDR, and it shows the full color spectrum. You get the full-on bit, you get everything, right? It's all there. It happens if you're on a little monitor, if you're on your Samsung television, whatever. Any television that is built on the standard, which again is the standard, will automatically show your content in HDR. The nice thing is you don't have to worry about it because you can produce a single file that will be viewable on a standard monitor or on an HDR monitor without having to think about it. And that's crazy, crazy cool. So basically you look at it on the right type of monitor, it just looks better. Next point on there is it says a low bitrate recording mode 4K HEVC, that's H.265, high efficiency video codec, for HLG was added. HLG, that's hybrid log gamma. This enables playback on AV equipment compatible with the HEVC compression format, such as Panasonic 4K HDR TV. So basically what I just said. So yeah, so good stuff there. All right, let's see what's going on in the chat. I think I skipped the last question chat, so let's see what's there. Loving the new John Morby, today's sponsor, thank you, loving the new mug. What's the price range for SD cards needed for 400 megabit recording? Excellent question. Okay, Panasonic has a V90 card that's on their website, but they're not really going to be selling it. It's more of a proof of concept because Panasonic isn't in the business of making SD cards. All the regulars, well, I guess not Lexar anymore, right? Didn't they shut down? Oh, yeah. But SanDisk, who else makes SD? I don't even remember anymore. Anyway, the regular big SD card readers will be making the V90 spec cards. It's U3 10. Actually, I think I've got a screenshot here that I can look at and give you better info than just me rambling. Let me see here. I saw, here we go. And again, I can't show this to you, sorry, but class 10 U3 cards. It's a 280 megabit read speed, a 250 megabit write speed, and that is V90. So U3, class 10, you're good to go. So look for those specs, because not everybody uses the same qualifiers, V90 and so on, but U3, class 10, that should give you the speeds. So they cost more than slower cards, but well, that's life. So head over to B&H and you will absolutely find them there. Like I said, all the major manufacturers have these things, so there you go. Excuse me. Okay, MJ Scott says, is the HDR consistent with the HDR10 quality, and how can you get to Dolby Vision HDR levels? That sounds familiar. Let me find that extra info I was looking at earlier. The wrong way. Because there's two standards, HDR standards, that this covers. Okay, again, I can't show this to you, but I'm just going to read this to you. So this is the ITU RB, let me get this off here, ITU RBT 2100. That rolls off your tongue, adopts two technologies, HLG, hybrid log gamma, and PQ, perceptual quantizer. So the hybrid log gamma is using the Arab STD-B67 standard. What an unfortunate acronym. This is a format originally was proposed by NHK, which is the big broadcaster in Japan, and the BBC, which of course is a big broadcaster in the UK. This says, with the premise of gamma-based log characteristics and real-time LUT technology, there's a high level of compatibility with broadcast standards and practicality with existing camera image sensors, which is awesome. Doesn't answer your question though. HDR, I saw HDR10 somewhere. Oh no, here it is. So PQ, highly compatible with authoring software. Application is proceeding as HDR10 in Ultra HD Blu-ray IP distribution, etc. So there you go. HDR10 is covered. Sweet. There you go. Excellent. All right, let's move on. Next up is number 6. Number 6 says enhancement of the anamorphic video recording mode. This is another biggie. High resolution anamorphic mode, which enables video recording in 18 mega effective pixels, is added. And this is recorded in HEVC, aka high efficiency video codec, aka H.265. Lots of, what do you call them, sub notes on there, but let's just go to the chart. So, okay. Interesting terminology. You see here it is referred to as high resolution anamorphic mode. And then here you see it listed as 6K. It's 6K, not 6K. It's 6K effective pixels. It is 6K worth of pixels. It's not a standard 6K format, apparently. This whole 6K high resolution thing is a little bit weird everywhere. But one data point I can tell you is that it is over 2.3 times, over 2.3 times the pixel count of 4K anamorphic. So going from 4K to 6K over doubles the effective pixel count. What? That's a lot. So that's really cool. So for those of you doing anamorphic, those of you who want to do anamorphic and have the ability to deliver in 6K and 4K, but punch into the frame, that's really, really cool. Just as a kind of another data point on that, you might ask yourself, well, why would you need more than 4K? Because you shoot 4K, that's what the standard delivery is. Nobody's delivering in 6K or 8K. That's crazy talk, right? 4K is a standard delivery, yes. It's not about just what your standard delivery is. This is the exact same thing that we went through when everybody had HD TVs, not 4K, but people were shooting 4K and you're going, well, what's the point? One of the big advantages is the ability to reframe, to punch into the shot, to stabilize and have not be scaling and not be scaling up your shot so you're losing resolution. That's a huge reason to do that. And if you want to deliver in 4K and you can only shoot in 4K, you lose all of those options, all these things that we got used to shooting in 4K, delivering in HD. So now when you can shoot in 6K and deliver in 4K, you gain back that ability to reframe, rotate your shot, do stabilization, all that kind of stuff. Also, if you're doing any kind of graphic VFX work, having that extra resolution, motion tracking, stuff like that, it makes a big difference. There's a really interesting video I just watched yesterday on what's it, Linus Tech Tips? Yeah, Linus Tech Tips. If you go to his channel, he's got this video on why they spent $140,000 on these red helium sensor, red epic, whatever the heck they're called, the big honking red cameras that shoot 8K. For YouTube videos. Like, what's the point of shooting 8K for YouTube videos? And he goes through all those points that I just listed and then some. And it's really cool. It's really great to have this extra resolution there. So anyway, so that's what the 6K anamorphic is. So if we go back to this chart real quick, you can see the pixel size on there, the 4992 by 3744, and that's at 200 megabit 420 10 bits. You're not at the full 422. Now, and this is long ops. This is not an all-intra recording frame. But one of the things that I don't know yet, and this is something I tried to find out but I could not get an answer on, is what happens on the HDMI out. So at this point, are we getting full 422 10-bit on the HDMI out, even when we're in the 6K anamorphic mode? I don't know. I would assume so, because everything else output can be enabled to 422 10-bit, but I don't know. So hopefully it can, which would mean you'd capture that higher resolution on an external recorder. But the second part of that equation that I don't know the answer to yet is, will your external recorder, aka the Atomos Ninja Inferno, will that record that full resolution, which is bigger than 4K? I don't think it does. You might need a special recorder. So more questions than answers here, I'm afraid. But regardless, it's cool stuff. And we're like, the fact that you could do this on this tiny little $2,000 camera is kind of insane. Just kind of insane. It's kind of cool. Okay. Next up, we are going to very briefly talk about our sponsor for today's show, FidoNet. Today's PhotoJoseph's Photo Moment is brought to you by FidoNet.com. Whether you need a domain name, web hosting, or your own virtual server, FidoNet.com are the people to talk to. With access to more than 400 top-level domains, you're sure to find the right domain for your project. Or do you need to host a website? FidoNet.com are specialists in web hosting. With more than 20 years experience serving websites, the folks at FidoNet.com will be able to help you get your website online in record time and at an affordable price. FidoNet.com, where those in the know go, and those who use the code PhotoJoseph on checkout save 10%. And there you go. Thank you, FidoNet. Ding. I feel like the Truman Show. All right. Okay, next up is, let's get the slides back up. We are on number 7. 7 is enhancement of the body IS, the image stabilizer. So IS lock video mode is added. This powerfully compensates for handshake when the viewing angle is fixed. That doesn't mean like handshake, but handshake. As I understand it, again, don't have more info than what it says here, but my understanding of this is if you're not moving, you're not panning, you're just locked, that there's a new IS mode that will just, like, let's call it tripod mode, that just locks. So if you're not moving, it just locks. And I cannot wait to try that because we've already got really impressive image stabilization performance in here, especially when you combine it with an IS2 lens and you get the full-on IS2, dual IS2 across the body and the lens. It's incredible, right? The image stabilization is absolutely incredible. So the fact that it's getting better when you're just standing still, shooting video, choice. I think that is really, really nice to see. So again, there's no specs on here. There's no like, oh, you gain a third of a stop or half a stop or stop, or it's not said. It's mo better. And as we said before, better is better. So digging that, can't wait to get my hands on that. It also says a new handshake correction mode is added, which provides optimum correction when using 2x and 1.3x anamorphic lenses. So again, if you are shooting anamorphic, I guess it's harder. I've never shot anamorphic. I gotta be honest. I really want, just one of those things. I gotta do this. I gotta get adapters and lenses. It's cool. I haven't done it. So a new handshake correction mode specifically for anamorphic lenses. Great, we like that. Paper Hustles TV says best reasons to shoot anamorphic. Ooh, it's a look, right? Anamorphic is a look. You get super wide, so wider than 16:9. You get the bokeh has a very specific look to it. It's instead of a round bokeh, it's that oblong shaped bokeh. You're squeezing more data into the frame, which then gets stretched out in post, and so you get effectively more pixels. You get effectively more resolution, and it just looks cool. Oh, lens flare. You know, if you ever watched a J.J. Abrams movie, you know all about lens flare. Watch the first new Star Trek that J.J. Abrams did. It's like 90% lens flare in the movie. Looks really cool, and that's all anamorphic lenses. How it all the lens catches on the anamorphic lenses, and it's really, and it looks cool. It's a look. It's a thing. But yeah, it's a look. It gives you a wider field of view. It gives you more data. Overall, it's cool. It is harder to shoot. There are anamorphic lenses, dedicated lenses that are very expensive. There are anamorphic adapters that you could put onto a regular lens that are considerably less expensive but also more complicated to shoot with because you effectively have to focus twice. You focus the main lens and then you focus the anamorphic adapter. So it's a little complex, but if you're shooting movies, it's a pretty bitchin' way to go. It's not the kind of thing that you're going to do your daily vlog. You know, you're not going to vlog anamorphic. I mean, you could. Actually, I don't think you get any kind of autofocus. I shouldn't say that, I don't really know. But I don't think you'd be doing any vlogging in anamorphic. But if you're shooting a film, a feature film, a short, a doc, and you want it to look totally cinematic, anamorphic's a great way to go. Let's see, other question that came up there is, MJ Scott says, recently purchased your training, thank you. Can't wait to start getting edumacated. Will this HDR recording be standardly imported into Final Cut Pro? Okay, ooh, that's a very good question. The HDR, will Final Cut need to do, I don't know. I don't think it matters, right? Because you know what? I don't know. That is a fantastic question. I wish I'd thought of that before this whole thing started because that's a question I should have asked. I don't know what happens on the editing side. When you're shooting, okay, hold on, let's think this through. When you're shooting, if you want to shoot HDR today, you shoot in Vlog. You record to a Atomos, well, you can record internally, or the highest quality you record to your Ninja Inferno. And that is a 8-bit or 10-bit, preferably 10-bit Vlog file, which you can edit in Final Cut like anything else. And the HDR is part of the grade. So in this case, it's still 10-bit, it's HDR, the color's there. I don't think it matters. I don't think it's going to matter. But that is a very good question. I don't have an answer for you. I will try and get one. Feel free to post that question in the comments after the show, once this video is done and there's actual comments you can add, because then that'll be sticky and I'll be able to see it again later. Feel free to add that in, but that is a fantastic question that I don't know the answer to. Excellent. Okay, moving on. Let's go to, where are we? Are we on 8? We are on 8. Number 8, correction of white balance setting. So this is a bug fix. When the Kelvin value was changed after adjusting the color temperature with the 2-axis white balance compensation, the setting was reset. This bug has been fixed. So that's just a bug fix. That means if you've ever played with it, when you're doing your white balance, custom white balance, there's a little crosshair and you can drag it around to get a little bit more blue, orange, whatever color you want. Apparently that was getting reset. The 2-axis fix was getting reset when you changed your Kelvin temperature. Apparently that's been fixed. We like that. Fixes are always good. Next up is improved usability of time-lapse shot. The time to finish shooting and the number of recordable pictures are displayed on the standby screen. That's great. If you've ever done time-lapse, it's one of those things where you're looking at the screen going, okay, well, when's it going to be done? I don't know. So now there's more information on the screen. That's all that is. More is better. We like more. More is definitely better. David, your question is going to be coming up in just a moment here. Moving on to number 10. Improved usability of the Power Save LVF, the live viewfinder. Power Save LVF can now be used during all standby display options. Well, isn't this interesting? Because this is one of these things that I've had several users say the standby thing doesn't work. It doesn't go in, it goes into standby mode even when you don't want it to. And I have shown on the show that it works exactly the way it's supposed to. And people going, it doesn't do that on mine. And then I've had some people be very, very angry. Relax. Some people get very angry with me saying, you're lying, even though I showed it live, and then demanding that I show it again, and I had to kick some people off because they were getting so violent about it. It was very odd thing to get so upset about. But apparently there has been an issue, even though I wasn't seeing it in here. We know already that there are issues that show up in some cameras and not others. So apparently improved usability of Power Save LVF. Don't know if that addresses this specific issue that some people were seeing, but again, better is better. So Power Save LVF can now be used during all standby display options. So perhaps the difference in what I was seeing, what others were seeing, wasn't a difference in the bodies, but a difference in some other setting, somewhere deeper in the camera. Better is better. That's all I can tell you right now. All right, next up, hey, Geeks Life, good to see you again. And let's go on to the next one. Number 11, wireless functions. This is fun. The Bluetooth remote control function can be used with Image app, which will also be updated at the same time with the GH5 firmware release. Okay, so this, first off, means there's a new app, a new version of the app being released. So that's your iOS/Android app for the GH5. And this Bluetooth remote function is effectively, you know, right now you can control the camera completely. It's over the Wi-Fi connection. You can see what the viewfinder, you can see what the camera sees on your phone. You can change camera settings and fire it and everything else. But this takes some time to get set up and to get all working. So it's not the kind of thing you would go, oh, let me just do it, and like a second later it's connected. It takes maybe a minute or so to get everything established. The Bluetooth connection it removes the live view, and it's just a trigger. It's just a wireless trigger to start and stop recording or to take the picture. Nothing fancy, just boom. It'd be the same as having, I don't have it here, but same as having a wired remote. Push the button to take a picture, but it's wireless. So that is a new feature of the new app that will be coming when the firmware update comes. So presumably you'll be able to connect it much quicker. Remember that the Bluetooth connection can always be left active so that it's always connected, which means you can just pull your phone out of your pocket, launch the app and go click to shoot it, or take just a few moments to connect the Bluetooth devices. So this is great. I think this is a really cool function that just makes it's a simple little feature, but will add usability, considerable usability to that app. Next up, it says, if the camera has not completed image transfer when it's turned off, so this is wireless image transfer over to the app, it restarts transmission when it is turned back on with the auto transfer function. So what this is saying here basically is that if you, right now, if you set up your camera to automatically transfer images to your phone while you're shooting, and you're shooting, you shot 10 shots, and then you have something on you to turn off the camera, well, it obviously can't transfer files anymore. And I think what was happening before is you turn it back on and it wouldn't pick up where it left off. It would just go, okay, well, next picture you take is going to transfer, but the ones before it didn't. So now it's going to pick up where it left off. So just, it's a simple thing, one of those little things, but if you're using that feature and you were frustrated by that, you'll be happy to see this in here. Moving on to number 12, which is just the all-encompassing ending other improvements. But there's some good stuff in here. First one, a rating function using an FN button is available in the playback zoom and multi-playback mode. Awesome. This is a big deal. How many times have you been looking at the back of your camera, you just shot 5 shots, and you go, oh, that's the best one. How do I find that one later? Right? You know that's the best one. So now you'll be able to go, ooh, 5-star rating, 3-star rating, whatever. I think that's about maybe the best. You can rate it in camera. And then, presumably, it doesn't say this, but it'd be kind of useless if it didn't. That rating, star rating data, will transfer over to Lightroom, Capture One, whatever you're using, so that when you import them, you already have ratings on some of your photos, which is super fantastic. To be able to rate in camera and then have that transfer over, nice feature. Very nice feature. The following functions can now be assigned to FN buttons. Constant preview. This is a huge one for me. Okay, constant preview. Let's just talk about what this is. Constant preview is the function where what you see on the LCD, or the viewfinder, same thing, is an exposure, an accurate representation of what the photo is going to look like once it's taken. So if you make the picture darker, if you underexpose the picture gets darker on the LCD, you overexpose it, gets brighter on the LCD, etc. Fantastic. This is normally what you want on. Why wouldn't you, right? It's one of the beautiful benefits of shooting mirrorless. You see what the picture's going to look like before you take it. Yay. The problem with that feature is when you go into a studio environment and you're shooting with studio strobes, not Panasonic strobes, they automatically compensate for this, but studio strobes where the camera has no way to know how many lights, where the lights are, what the power is, and so on. You set the camera to 125th of a second at f5.6, and that exposure in your studio with the ambient lighting on is super dark. And so what you see on the screen is a super dark picture because it's doing what it's supposed to do. This is what the picture is going to look like. Of course, when you take a picture and the strobes fire, the photo looks like it should. So to fix that, to compensate for that, you have to turn off constant preview. You disable that, and now the camera doesn't show you what the exposure will look like. It just shows you what the scene looks like in front of you so that you can actually compose, focus, and so on. The problem was that to turn that off, you had to dig into the menu system. Super annoying. For someone who does a lot of studio shooting, it's a feature that you want right under your fingertips, and now you can do that. Now you can assign that to an FN button, push one button to toggle that constant preview on and off, which is huge, 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 huge for studio shooters. So that's a feature that I know I personally requested several times, so I'm going to take credit for that one, even if it's not deserved. Next up, 6K, 4K photo bulk saving is assigned to a button. Cool. Minimum shutter speed setting is set. Oh, that's handy. That's actually really handy. So you can change your minimum shutter speed more quickly. So if you're in an environment where you've got your minimum shutter speed set to, I don't know, say a 30th, and you're finding that's too slow, you want to bring it up a little bit, you can quickly navigate in and just hit the function button and get into that. Super. Next one is another, oh, no, not next one yet, sorry. Raw processing. Okay, good. So you can access raw processing quickly, which if you're here, what the heck is that? If you're shooting raw only, or even if you're shooting RAW plus JPEG, but if you're shooting RAW, you have the ability to process that RAW file using any of the camera looks in camera. I don't know if you knew that. I should do a show on this one day. But you can go in and go, oh, there's a RAW file. Let's see what that would look like with the crunchy black and white, like L dot, whatever the heck it's called, black and white look. You can go in and say raw file, ooh, let's change the white balance and let's add this look to it, process it, and it renders out a JPEG. You can do that all in camera. It's pretty slick. So if you want to do that all the time, you can now assign that to an FN button. I don't know, it's the kind of thing that I would want to access that quickly, but it's there. Record playback switch. So apparently switching between recording and playback mode. Not quite sure what that means. Destination slot, that's good. So if you want to quickly go between slot 1 and 2, you can do that. And then mic level adjust, super, super handy. The ability to adjust your microphone levels if you're using an on-camera mic and you want to crank them up or down quickly to access that at a touch is very, very good. So no longer having to dig into the menus to get to there, liking that. The next one says the display button can be locked. Yay! That's this button here, the display button that is far too easy to accidentally bump. So you can, in the menus, lock that. Now, I do not know whether that means you just turn it on or off, or whether there's some kind of a long press to disable it or what, I don't know. But it can be locked now, which is a very good thing for those who complain about that. I mean, it has been an issue. I've run into it before myself where you accidentally bump and you're going, bump it. So it's there. That's good. Whew. In relay record, there were cases where the video file number was not able to be reset. This bug has been fixed. Okay, bug fixes are good. In relay record, there were cases where the video file number was reset after formatting the SD memory card. This bug has been fixed. Okay, so that's the, you probably know when you're recording, you can tell the camera to automatically reset the number every time you pop in a new card or just continue counting. Apparently there were some bugs where that was not doing what it was supposed to do. So those are fixed. Excellent. In relay record, there were cases where the video, oh, I just read that. In backup record, there were cases where the file number was not reset even after applying resetting. This has been fixed. Okay, so more reset fixes. And the last one, the image quality when applying the following settings is improved. Extended low ISO, dynamic, intelligent derange control, and highlight and shadow. So basically, low range ISO, out of range ISO is improved, which can only be a good thing, right? Getting better ISO performance all across the board. You can't argue with that, especially at those low ISOs. This had come up in yesterday's show. Someone was asking about the low ISO, or maybe it was 2 days ago, and how to get into the lower ISOs. You have on all the LUMIX cameras, you have something called extended ISO that you can enable. It allows you to get into those lower ISO ranges. In general, in the lower ISO ranges, your dynamic range is not as great. And so you only want to go into those modes if you know you have a perfect exposure. And apparently the quality of those low ISO ranges are improved. So there we go. All right, let's see what else is going on in the comments. And then that wraps us up, which is pretty good. Pretty good. Paper Hustles TV says, a little off topic, but I was wondering what's the best benefit of shooting cinema 4K versus regular 4K? Aspect ratio. It's an aspect ratio. It's a wider format. So it's just, it's a creative choice. It is a creative choice. Trevor says, I don't think that, okay, I don't know what John's saying there, so I'm going to skip that part. You guys are all having fun in there. Excellent. Okay. Bluetooth, David says, Bluetooth instead of Wi-Fi connection for the app more stable. I don't know about stable, but it's faster to connect to. That's one of the benefits of it. It's just, it's faster to grab onto. So we'll go with that. And anything else in here? Okay, that was it. All right, any other comments that come up? Now is your chance to throw them in there. Otherwise, we're going to wrap up today's show. 45 minutes, not too bad. Good number of people watching. Excellent. One of those record shows. Love that. Chicha says, I can't make, oh, okay. That's a good question. I can't make send images while recording via Wi-Fi between my Mac and G85. Right, it's not meant to work between your Mac. It's meant to work to your iPhone. That's, oh, okay. Yeah, you can do it with a PC. Now, I don't own a PC, so I've never been able to try it and set it up. Apparently, you can do kind of a wireless transfer to the PC, but even that apparently is super kludgy. Again, never done it, but it doesn't work on the Mac, so sorry. It does work with iOS, though. You can transfer, but not to the Mac. So sorry about that. Oh, yeah. Okay, Marcel mentioned something that I didn't see. Did I miss something? Huh, okay. Marcel just called something out that you're absolutely right is in there, and I don't know, I must have read past it somewhere in here. Weird. But yes, the lines, Cinescope lines on the way. So you will have, let me pull it up in here because I think it had, wow, that is so weird. How did I miss that? You have lines showing up on your screen. Here we go, video guidelines, they're called. 4 modes. And what this means is you're shooting 4:3 aspect ratio, but you want to know what your 16:9 crop would be, or you're shooting a 16:9, but you want to know what your Cinescope crop would be, or whatever different crop, or a 1:1 square crop because you're shooting for Instagram. Whatever it might be, you want to know what the crop would look like. So you can now have lines show up on your display that tell you where that crop will be. And the 4 modes are 2.39 to 1, 2.35 to 1, so very cinematic aspect ratios, 16:9, so if you're shooting 4:3 and you want to see what 69 would look like, or 1:1 for square. So that's so funny. I don't know why that, oh, these are all screenshots. I can't search it. I don't know why that didn't show up in there. Huh. I must have read right past it. Sorry about that. And the biggest question of all, when is this going to be available? End of September. That is the official line. There is not a date. It just says end of September. That is it. So within the month, within the next month, end of September. It'll be ready when it's ready. Trevor says, is there a special list of people who get access to pre-production firmware? Would have thought you would have gotten it. I don't make these decisions. And that is that. Alrighty. I think that's it. Cool, guys. Well, hey, thank you for tuning in for today's show. Thank you, FidoNet, for your support of today's show. FidoNet.com. Check them out. And I think that's about it. Super duper. Thanks a lot, everybody. That was a good one. That was fun. It's good to get some really good meat for a show. So tomorrow, I don't know what we'll do. We'll figure it out later on this afternoon. But that was fun. If you have more questions about it, or for those who are watching this not live, if you have any questions about the GH5 version 2 firmware update, drop them in the comments and I will do my best to get an answer for you. I'll either answer it in the comments or bring it up on a future show, which is something that we like to do. See a good question, like, well, that's a good question. Let's make sure everybody sees that. I'll turn it into a show episode or answer it in a Q&A. If you have enjoyed this video, which how could you not? I mean, seriously, thumbs up, please. I appreciate those thumbs up on the video. If you're watching this live right now, just go in there and hit that thing for me. I really appreciate it. If you're not watching it live, hit it for me, even better. And I guess that's about it. You know what to do. PhotoJoseph.com/Patreon if you want to support the show. Love that support. Subscribe to the show. You know, all that good stuff. Anything else on here? Oh, let's just do this real quick because my goodness, how could I not? How could I not mention this right now, the GH5 training, my complete 5.5-hour long GH5 training course is available both for download, purchase and download at gh5training.com and also at lynda.com and LinkedIn Learning. If you're a member there, the full course is now available. Plus, now that the version 2 update is on its way, once I have it, I will record an addendum to the training. I'm not going to set up the same set, I'll just do it in here, I think, but I will record an addendum going through these new features, especially the tethering. So I'll do a whole thing on how the tethering works. So for those of you who have purchased it, you will get that as a free additional download. And of course, once they're done, I'll send them off to Lynda as well. But as before, those take longer to show up there. But I will be recording additional videos as soon as I have the firmware to do so with. So you will get those as well. And obviously I'll talk about things in this show as well, about the new stuff. All right, I think we're gonna break it off there. Thanks again a lot. Thanks a lot again, you know what I mean. Thank you everybody for watching. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.